And welcome to another episode of Inside CKP. Thanks to all my guests that are here today. I'll let them introduce themselves in a moment. But before we do that, let's pay the bills. This show is brought to you by Chris Kennedy Publishing. Go there for all your science fiction, military science fiction, post-apocalyptic fantasy needs. That, like I always say, they have a little bit of sprinkling of romance in there. But mostly science fiction, fantasy. A great place to go if you're in the mood for that. And to support this show and Chris Kennedy Publishing, you can go to their Patreon, as well as find all the books on the website and Amazon. Also on the website, you can find the CKP store and find nice t-shirts like this and other goodies. Join the mail group. You can get news early, become an early reader for books, all kinds of fun, free fun stuff. And it goes for all the authors. If you like an author, join the mail group because you get free stuff, you get news early, and all that good stuff. All right, I'm done. Let's get to my guests. These are the Eldros Legacy crew, the founders of Eldros Legacy, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and put up their socials. Before we go to individuals, you can find everything Eldros at these websites, eldroslegacy.com. Of course, Chris Kennedy Publishing. You can find all the books on Amazon, and there's a Facebook fan group. So if you want to keep up with everything Eldros Legacy, go to all these websites. And, of course, join the newsletters. You'll find out everything there. First, let's, just because I'm old-fashioned, let's start off with Marie, if you would.
Sure. Yeah, there I am.
So where can people find you, and if they want to communicate best with you, what are the best places they can go?
You can get to me at mariewhitaker.com, but I mean, just like the rest of the writers, I know we have Facebook open a lot, so out there a lot. Sorry if my dogs bark. If they bark, I'll shut the door. But yeah, so Instagram, I love Instagram. I'm always posting pictures of all my fur babies and books and stuff. I have lolahopscotch.com. That's for my kids' books. And you can probably get to me through eldroslegacy.com too.
Okay. And in no discerning order, Mark.
So my name is Mark Stallings. I write with Draconon because dragons are cool. You can find me up on my website, markstallings.com. I am on Facebook, Mark Stallings Author, and occasionally you can find me on Twitter. The best way to get a hold of me is through the website.
Awesome. Quincy.
So you can find me on quincyallen.com. Of course, like Marie and the rest of us, I spend far too much time on Facebook. You can message me if need be. I can't promise to answer right away, but I'll answer. Also, I've got my author page on Amazon. Pretty much everything I've ever done writing-wise is on there. And then, of course, the Eldros Legacy stuff. Also involved with stuff I've done with Mark Allen Adelheid, so you can look him up. And I think that's about it.
All right. And Todd, if you would.
Sure. So pretty much the same roster. I got my website, toddfahnestock.com. I have author page, personal page, and Facebook group called Edge of Your Seat Epic Fantasy on Facebook. That's a good place to kind of chat and talk with me. And then I always respond via email as well. So anybody who reaches out to me, I can get back to them that way as well. I also spend a lot of time at Comic-Cons. So if you've got a local Comic-Con, I may actually be there. And that's my favorite way to connect with readers, is to talk to them face to face.
Awesome. And last but not least, Rob.
Yeah, hey, best place to get a hold of me these days is probably actually the New Mythology Discord channel, which I didn't provide Jeremy, so he didn't put up on this, but look for the New Mythology Press Discord channel out there. I'm also on Facebook some. Hey guys, it's not like I've never forgotten anything before in my life.
I'm sorry.
Children.
And the other place to find me, I'm more often on Twitter these days than I am on Facebook. I've been weaning myself away from Facebook, so find me mostly on the Discord channel or on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Now, I'm going to gush a little bit about, and we were talking about this before the show, but I'm going to gush a little bit about y'all's fans. It's always a good time doing an Eldros podcast because your fans come to play. In fact, while we're here, because there's already craziness going on here. So many. But anyway.
There it is.
Yeah, if y'all seen it, y'all can click on comments as well. So the Eldros, because we've done 3 book launches for you guys, and they've all been great. They've been our top viewed videos, the most well attended. So your fans are awesome, and I love them. So
Thank you.
So do
Thank
we.
you so much.
yeah.
I promised myself I wasn't going to cry.
Yeah. And so with all that being said, like I said, if you see a comment you like, go ahead and click on it, pop it up, and because I know I'm not going to catch them all. So let's get started. For people who don't know or are watching this in the future and they're saying, what is Eldros? What I've heard about it, but I don't know what it is. How would you describe it?
Todd, you got the best pitch. Go for it.
Yeah,
All right. So, Eldros Legacy is a multi-author, shared world, mega epic fantasy experience. Okay, we got together 5 fantastic authors to start brainstorming this idea of a world wherein each author has their own continent. Okay, and they run it. They kind of develop the aspects of that continent. And yes, Nick Street it's a book series. Yeah. Okay, maybe I should have mentioned that. That it's a book series. But then all of the other things that I said. And so we developed these continents, and the notion is that 2,000 years ago, there was this super race of creatures. They're called giants. They're like these highly intelligent, highly magical master race type of people that ruled everything. But 2,000 years ago, there was a revolution, and the humans and the elves and the dwarves and all that stuff overthrew their masters. And now it's been that way for 2,000 years where the giants have been gone. Now, once upon a time, all of these continents could connect with each other through these doorways called Thuroi. Okay, and you can see that on the front of every cover. It's kind of baked into the brand that we have, where these doorways used to be open and we could communicate between these continents. Well, that hasn't happened for 2,000 years. So in some cases, the continents are considered to be myths, or most people don't even know about them. So what we're going to do, each author is going to have their own story rising for like 3 books that doesn't really connect to the other stories. Then the Thuroi at some point are going to open, and around about book 4, everything's going to start to mingle together, and you're going to have this sort of Avengers event where all of our different heroes are going to come together. There. How was that? Was that decent enough?
Good.
that was really good.
Nailed it.
All right. So with that, so what started this? What made y'all want to create this giant world? What was the catalyst for it?
Rob,
Well,
you want to take that one?
Sure. Well, I think some of that is what we've seen from the Four Horsemen universe and what we've seen from the Salvage Title universe, and the and the Fallen World, the Forgotten Realms, Robert Louis Asprin's Thieves World series. All these shared universes. I've always loved the way they work together and create something where the sum is significantly more, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's what I wanted to create from the beginning. I want us to have something that we can look back and go, that worked out as something we all think is amazing. And you look at the Forgotten Realms and what they did with all of those stories and some of the overarching meta plots. Look at the Four Horsemen universe; they have a fan group. I mean, I think that's just amazing. And you look at what's happening in the hit world as Marisa is about to unleash the Valkyrie initiative and add more to the hit world. I love these shared universes and how we get these authors collaborating and bouncing ideas back and forth. And I think it's something I wanted to have in the epic fantasy world, something that I wanted to be a part of.
Okay, so with that being said, what was the kickoff? What was the first thing? How did y'all kick it off?
Oh, I like this story. Okay, go. Because I wasn't a part of it at the beginning, so.
Well, so ultimately, Rob and I, this was Chris Kennedy's living room, as I recall, a couple years back. Rob and I got to talking. I'd gone to visit. It's the first time I'd gone to a factory con. That was in Virginia Beach. And Rob and I got to talking about, how successful Four Horsemen was, how cool it was. And it's like, you know what? We could do that maybe with fantasy. What do you think? And so, and that sort of percolated for a little bit. And then Rob came back to, I think he started with Mark. You guys got to talking.
So just for the home audience,
came back to
2 years ago.
I think he started with Mark. You guys got to talking.
So just for the home audience,
Came back to
2 years ago. Getting some bleed through here.
Am I stroking out?
No, you're not.
Just for the home audience. 2 years ago. Getting
I'm gonna quiet some mics.
Is somebody on the YouTube podcast at the same time?
No, go ahead. I quite. Oh.
Yeah, Todd, you gotta mute it. So that party where Quincy and Rob got together would have been 2 years ago this month.
Oh, okay. That's crazy. So,
So then I got a ping from Rob going, "Hey." I'm stealing a KC. Hey. Yeah, we're wanting to do this fantasy thing, and you know how to do businessy stuff, and you write fantasy, so come play with us. And then I said, I know some people. I know you're shocked. And then we pinged Marie.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Mark sent me a message on Facebook, and he's like, his typical thing is like, "Hi there." I'm like, "Hi, Mark."
What do you want?
So then we got to talking about it. Yeah, and of course it sounded great, and I got to look through like what they put together as far as the World Bible and stuff like that, and I was pretty excited about it from the get-go. And so we had always wanted apparently 5 partners, and we were talking about like who's going to be a good 5th, and we wanted somebody who's fairly prolific, fun to work with, big into fantasy. And I just got the idea to throw out Todd Fahnestock's name, and then Mark did his hi there to Todd.
Hey, Todd, what you doing?
And then there were 5.
Well, that's awesome. Before we go on too far, who's in charge of what? So I know Eldros is a world, and there's 5 parts. So who's world got continent this and that, and I see the names in your titles here. So let's talk about what each individual is writing about. Let's start, ladies first.
Okay, so I tried really hard to get Pyronon in my name thing, and I was clicking on it like they said, and I couldn't get in there. But my continent is Pyronon, and it is littered with volcanic activity and volcanoes and underwater volcanoes. They are years and years and centuries old. So the ground is honeycombed with pyroducts, and a lot of catacombs have been created down there and stuff. The ground is really like gem and mineral rich, so we have that going for us too. There are a lot of bats, a lot of old Gothic castles, and a lot of fire and like pyroclastic activity and stuff like that. So
Did you say pyroclastic?
Did I?
Yeah, that's a word.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
how
real
often do you get
word.
to use that in a sentence?
See, this is why I like hanging out with writers. Pyroclastic. I mean, come on. How many of you knew
I hope I'm
pyroclastic?
saying that right. But yeah,
Well-
so just like a lot of
Everybody but you, Todd.
Oh, yeah.
And he's the one who's written the most.
Oh, so yeah, we have bats of all sizes. They range from like cat-sized house bats all the way up to riding bats to ginormous bats that pull air chariots and things like that. So we have horses too, but bats are cool because they fly in most cases. So there are sanctions. You know, you can't just ride your bat into everybody's airspace or whatever. But yeah, I just wanted something really gothic because I'm a dark fantasy author. So I brought gothic stuff in, and it's been fun.
Cool. So I'm just going to go in order on how I see you all. So Quincy, if you would go next.
Okay, so I I decided to go with demons because I've always been fascinated by them. I've done some fiction in the past with demons, and the lore behind that has always intrigued me. And then so with Daemonon, you've got this backdrop of demons, but with the way the novels are going, you're only just starting to learn about demons on the continent. On Daemonon, there's a lot of political intrigue, which I sort of drew from things like Dune and what was going on with the Great Houses. There's certainly magic like all the other continents, but the demons are really going to come to the forefront. For those of you who've read book 1, there are actually no demons mentioned. You sort of get a sense that there might be one in the background. Book 2 is going to be full on demons, so we sort of leap right into it, which I'm really looking forward to writing. I'm in the process now. I should have that done by third week of October. I sort of have to.
Right on.
And then the other cool part has been, is as we mentioned before, there's this we're planning on all this overlap. I've been working pretty intently with Todd, so there's already now overlap between his continent and mine, in a small sense. But his third book essentially takes place in Daemonon.
Essentially, I think entirely.
It does. And so, it's as we've promised, there's going to be overlap between the continents. And we're looking to, delve deeper and deeper into that. But there's a lot going on. I've got a bunch of different races in my world. There's the main kingdom, which is Pelinon, ruled by my main character, who's Relin. His brother is the king of Pelinon. But you've got the Coyote Dog Soldiers. Jamie Ibsen's books are going to be dealing with a story that then kind of rings in or comes into the Pelinon side of things. You've got bird people. You've got the Delvers, who are our dwarves. They've already made at least a cameo appearance so far. And what I plan to do is also by the end of it is have all these different races commingling and frankly killing one another. I mean, the plan to sort of wreak havoc on the entire continent.
It'll be fun.
I know, right? Yeah.
It was really fun to spend.
Not for the characters.
Oh, sorry.
But it's been a lot of fun sort of planning this out. I've got a great big master map, and you see some of the map work that's going that Mark Stallings' brother, has been doing for us. So that's the other thing, is take a look at those maps. The way we do them, you see the whole continent, and then you'll see the regional portion. And we put a lot of effort into those as well. So you'll get a sense of the scope and scale of all of the works that we're producing.
Yeah,
so that's Daemonon.
Yeah, I've seen those maps. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. We've had a blast doing that.
Yeah. Well, since you brought Todd into it, Todd, you go next.
Yeah, no, it was a blast going into Quincy's continent and then just wrecking shit. It's just like, let's make a whole bunch of vampires and destroy a barony, an entire city, and then just get the hell out.
Yeah, I was very excited, really.
I like how Todd waited to 20 minutes, not our pre-described 10 minutes before he started cursing.
Oh no, that only applies to the F-bombs.
Yeah.
So,
F-bombs are off limits.
I figured our fan base could take it.
We're set.
They better.
If they can't now, they better soon.
Yeah.
So Noxanon was I was the Johnny Come Lately, right? Like as you saw in like the story of how we all kind of came together. They, after flipping through a list of 100 people that said no to them, they finally got around to inviting me.
It was only 13. There wasn't 100.
Wasn't 100.
No, so anyways, like they're like, okay, so Quincy's got the continent where like everybody moved away from the original giant continent to create this, continent of demons, and Mark went to this continent where there's a whole bunch of dragons, and everybody like left the mother continent of the giants, and I was left with like whatever the continent was that everybody took off from, right? So I had this notion that my giants were like, yeah, I got the scraps. It was like my giants were the redheaded stepchildren of the whole thing, right? So essentially, I was like, okay, so how would these giants feel about their lot in life? And I kind of envisioned them as their sort of weaker, lesser tribe, right? Way, way, way back in time. And so we envisioned also that these tribes of giants, the Pyranoi, the Daemonoi, the Noxenoi, we're all fighting before the whole revolution where the mortals came up and kicked their ass, right? So, there I go again. Sorry. And so I was envisioning what would these giants do to kind of protect themselves, being the weaker set of giants. And so what they did was they cast a spell of night over the entire continent and then gave themselves a whole bunch of advantages to working in the dark, right? So that anybody who came to attack them in their continent would be at a disadvantage. And the Noxenoi, my giants, would be at a home field advantage, as it were. And so that's kind of what started the whole light versus dark. And everything that I write in my stories has everything to do with like the sun versus these places called the Noctum, which are pure night. So that's how Noxodon ended up being created.
Awesome. All right, Mark.
It's really cool. Not as cool as demons, though.
Well, ultimately, dragons are cool.
Demons are cooler.
So how many times do y'all argue about this?
I usually win.
Well, we've been meeting every week for since January, February of 2021.
Just about.
Yeah.
So at least once a week.
That's awesome.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mark.
Well, don't bring Nick Steverson in about dragons. He's got definite opinions.
Oh, he likes dragons.
Oh yeah, he does, but particular ones.
Yes, but
there's Nick chiming in.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we've got rivalries going on between the continents all over the place. And interestingly enough, I think the five of us are pretty mellow about it, but our cohorts start to get pretty excitable, which is kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. We did a good job instilling like home turf pride in our cohorts, that's for sure.
That's awesome. All right, Mark, go ahead and describe your continent.
So the up until recently, there have been an era of peace. So during the Forgotten King, I'm going to give you guys a not so much spoiler. The High King who gets elected initially amongst all of the kingdoms gets assassinated, and so the line ends because everybody thinks that Aura the Lightbringer is dead, where in reality he's not. I saw Megamind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, and I was fascinated by the Brad Pitt Superman character.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it would be fascinating if you do like a reverse Henry IV, where he fakes his own death and he goes out and he wants to go adventuring. And so that's basically the premise of my main character. And so then the High King gets assassinated, and we have to figure out who did it. And it's kind of a run and gun, in this instance, a run and sword kind of adventure through to figure out. And then there's a dragon at the end. And so this is kind of one of the interesting things is in as we created this world, that like Todd had said, there are these giants. And so on Draconon, the tribe of giants there loved dragons, so they transform themselves into dragons, right? So then there are greater dragons, which are giants or children of giants, right? So they have all the magic, all the intelligence, like, the classic D&D style dragon. Then there's lesser dragons, and these are basically like flying moose, carnivorous moose, unfortunately they have wings and can pick up a cow and take it off to eat it. And so that kind of a thing. So you have lesser dragons, and so we have a nice healthy mix of I can't say benevolent or malevolent, because giants are giants. They do what giants do, and humans be damned. If we're moving in the same direction as that giant, then he might be our ally, maybe.
For the
But
moment.
in this instance, the party gets to encounter a lesser dragon at the end of the book one, and then they have to deal with some of the greater dragons as the series progresses. And in fact, I think Todd, and I'm pointing this direction because Todd is to my side over there. Todd's going to be playing with a greater dragon in one of his books.
That's the coolest thing about a shared world is I'm like I said, I spent like a whole book in Quincy's continent, and I've got a dragon that I've pulled into my continent that was like trapped by his own people. So he doesn't like giants very much. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Yes, I have definitely trying to absorb a little bit of all of the different continents to kind of inspire and keep that going, because I mean the trading back and forth of the continents is the coolest part about this whole thing. And also like my main character, his mother is actually from Pyrenon, anyway, so yeah, all kinds of cool crossover. You got to read them all to get all of them.
And to cue him up, the bad guys in my book come from Rob's area.
Yeah. And with that segue, Rob, if you would wait before you start, Rob, can anybody make sense of this comment from Jamie?
What's this?
Hate geese.
Hate geese.
Yes, the hate geese are so awesome.
Yeah, that's why Daemonon's the coolest. Well, that's one of the reasons. So Jamie Ibsen, just a little backstory before we get to Rob, forgive me. Jamie's sort of becoming one of my writing partners. I'm writing in his universe. He's writing in ours. Mm-hmm. He and I have a fantastic relationship. He is Canadian, eh? Hey, one of the coolest guys. If you ever get a chance to meet him, he's awesome. But he's also a hell of a writer. I've enjoyed reading his stuff from the first time I read one of his short stories. And he's got this marvelous, subtle sort of sense of humor. On Daemonon, he's going to be both our disaster and comedic writer. And it just doesn't. So he's the one who came up with. We were chewing the fat, and we were talking about. I forget. It was actually in the. I think it was in. We were talking about geese in the Four Horsemen channel. Mm-hmm. And then after that, Jamie and I got to talking, and he came up with this idea of giant, really ill-tempered, venom-spitting, man-eating geese. As a dude, that has to go in the book. So that's the sort of thing that he brings to the table. It's really cool. He's got I gave him an entire race, the Coyote Dog Soldiers, who have a very strong sort of indigenous peoples feel to them, very tribal. And he's working on a 3-book series that's going to sort of push into the main series, at least brush up against it. So watch out for him. He's a good writer. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Rob.
Go ahead, Rob.
No, you were talking about legends and myths, and that's exactly what Sheeran's about. I'm a historian. I wanted knowledge and legend and mythology to all be the foundation for the action and the underlying driver of so much of what's going on in Sheeran. So I put a lot of effort into adding myths and adding religions and adding legends within Sheeran to make that be the backbone of everything that's going to happen. And it's allowed me also to put in some pretty in-depth work in some cultures that I'm shaping each one of the stories to focus on at a time, so that we get a different flavor. And that's not simply a euphemism here or a metaphor, because I like food, so I talk about food. So there's legendary food in my world too. But yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted legends and myths and history and knowledge to take the forefront in Sheeran. So that's where I started.
So there's a lot going on here, and if it's anything like what's happening with Four Horsemen, there is much more to come. who is the holder of the Bible, or is it a group effort? Is there there's no's, things you won't do, or anything like that?
We mostly rule by committee.
Yeah. We do. We discuss things and then discuss the pros and cons, and then if it comes down to it, we have a vote or whatever.
Awesome.
Our Bible is something that Rob started in the beginning. So by the time I saw it, it was like majorly filled in, and then we all went around and added descriptions of our continents and like the races that are there and that sort of thing. So.
And it's an evolving thing as we're growing with this process, and as we're seeing, no plan survives contact with the enemy, and no Bible survives contact with the cohorts. So, we have to adjust to try and make things fit in the long term, and so. Yeah, it's an evolving process, but that's part of the thing that one expects in a shared world, one that works in the long term, at least.
Awesome. And Todd touched on this earlier. What's it like writing in a shared universe? Pros and cons. What do you like about it? Things like that.
I like the blending of styles. I mean, like I said before, I write pretty gothic stuff, and Todd's is really like, it seems quest and adventure oriented, and
it's epic fantasy. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I really appreciate about it. Like, as far as like the pros, the cons can be sometimes like we just interpret things differently, or we have different perspectives. And so we have to make sure that all the magic meshes and stuff like that, but we just kind of work our way through it.
Awesome.
One of the points I want to make here is that, starting this from my perspective, I wanted to get a variety of different fantasy subgenres, fantasy styles within it. So, for example, Mark's is more swords and sorcery than it is epic. Mine's more epic. Marie's is gothic, as she'd mentioned. Aaron Rosenberg's is very light on magic and more mystery and more buddy cop. And we've got a bit of a coming of age story with Kendra Martin's coming out, or Kendra Merritt's coming out on this upcoming Tuesday. And frankly, that one may very well be my favorite one of all of the books. This is the 8th book in the series. I think this is my favorite, even counting my own. It's really that good. It's an amazing book. So I'm excited to have that come into the world. So if you don't like my style, or you don't like Quincy's style, or something like that, we've got a variety of choices, because we tried to create, or I wanted to create, a bit of a smorgasbord of styles and experiences here. This is a big shared world. There are going to be things that are more awesome to you and things that are less awesome to you. That's part of the way it works.
Well, I think one of the closest analogies, for if you've watched the evolution of the Marvel universe since Iron Man, Jon Favreau's Iron Man, there is a lot of different styles from movie to movie to movie, especially even more so in the past 4 or 5 years. And I really think there's a lot of value in having that it's not cookie cutter sort of creation. It's everybody's bringing something different to the table. And the hope certainly is that we have something that really gloms onto a wide audience, where they're going to have their favorites and the stuff that, well, I had to wade through that one, but it's part of the whole story, right? But I love these, whichever one that is. And so that was pretty deliberate on our parts from the get-go.
That's awesome. I love just hearing what y'all are talking about, how y'all get together and y'all plan everything. I love a well-told story that people are, they know what's going to happen. It's well planned, and they're not trying to shoehorn these things in, and so it makes for a great story. And just from what y'all have told me so far, I want to go read all the books. So,
Excellent.
Yeah, and no offense, I'm not a huge fantasy guy. I love watching fantasy and everything, but reading it, because I'm not a great reader, is tough for me. I'm an audiobook guy. But the way that y'all describe it, it makes me want to go go read it. So that's awesome. So earlier on, you mentioned, so you guys are the core authors for this world. And you mentioned Jamie and Kendra. So obviously the number of authors is going to expand. What are the plans for that? What's going to happen with that?
Well, the basic goal is to have the 5 of us put out a book a year in this universe, and then fill in all the rest of the months with somebody else's contribution. And whether that's Kendra in Noxanon, or Aaron in Shiurin, or Jamie in Daemonon, and Courtney Farrell's coming up in Pyronon. And Mark's got some people working on Draconon too. So the goal is to spread it out to get a bunch of different stories, because even though this isn't like the Four Horsemen universe that's got a galaxy to play with, an entire world is still an entire world. There are nooks and crannies everywhere, even in areas that we ourselves are writing in. There are nooks and crannies everywhere for people to find great stories. And as long as as long as we keep putting out great stories and they keep giving us great stories, that's what we want. We're just going to keep filling it out with all sorts of interesting perspectives on what we started with.
Yeah, as an example, if you ever see the whole Daemonon map, really the stories that have taken place or will take place for the foreseeable future only take place on about a quarter to a third of the continent. There's a whole lot of uncharted territory, and I think everybody is the intent is to let these different people sort of take ownership of these little pockets, these corners, these regions, and run with it. That's why I gave Jamie pretty much full reign in Sioux Cardamom territory, and he's done a fantastic job. I think everybody's pretty much doing the same.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's one of the bits of magic of the shared universe, is just like it gets expanded in ways that us as the founders wouldn't have conceived of, right? And it creates those different styles that they were talking about earlier. It's really fun. It's really fun to watch it happen.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now we've talked about some of the future books. Let's not forget about the books that have already been written. So how'd y'all kick it off? What was the first dip into the world?
Kaivan the Unkillable.
That's Kaivan.
Which is a great starting place for the series. Todd knocked it out of the park.
He did.
He did.
It was, well, I mean, I have to throw the credit right back on everybody else, because how could you not be inspired? Like, the beginning of this whole project was I was calling Quincy, and then I was calling Marie, and then I was calling Mark, and then I was calling Rob, and I was like, I've got this idea for this, I've got this idea for that, and they would bounce these ideas off. So that story came together lightning fast, and I think everybody can agree that it moves at a almost equally fast pace throughout the whole thing, just kind of introducing this character that will be, it was there at the beginning, and he's going to be there at the big throw the ring into Mount Doom ending as well, and just building this legend around this guy. And he won't be obviously the only one. There's so many elements coming from all the different continents that are going to come together in the crescendo. And we're still building exactly what that will look like. And of course, I'm not going to say anything about it. I don't want any spoilers, for the 4 or 5 books down the road. But it was just so fun to write it, because of all the inspiration flying around that we had, at the beginning, and continue to have as well.
Okay, and so what? Well, here, since I made this, and I believe this is the order of the books so far.
Yes.
That looks right.
All right. So, Quincy, let's talk about yours, which is the next one.
Well, so it ties a little bit into actually Rob and our original conversation about, starting a shared world in fantasy, because I had written for him 8-9 months before that a short story called Fistful of Silver, which featured this lone guardian of Pelanon who goes around the land getting into basically solving problems. You don't really get a sense of why he's doing it, other than he works for the king, and then he deals with this demon cult in this town. And so we decided we're going to do a world. Well, it's okay. I'm going to obviously bring Relin into this, because I love this idea of the Guardians of Pelinon. There are 13 of them, and they've already taken a hit in the first book, and that's going to continue. Fair warning. Anyway, so now Relin just he actually reads almost like a detective. I mean, that first short story was really kind of a detective short story, and the first half of Seeds of Dominion reads almost like a police procedural. He's actually called in to solve a murder because one of the Guardians has been almost killed, and what happens is as he starts to solve this murder, he gets sucked into a greater plot. And what I wanted to do from the get-go is have this kingdom that, spoiler alert, Pelinon is headed for trouble. And what I wanted to do was essentially disassemble an empire with Relin and his brother, the king, sort of at the heart of that and having to deal with it. And so there's a lot of political intrigue. There's a bunch of different players. And it's been just a blast to write. I'm looking for his next one. Just so a heads up, his next book is actually going to be more of a dungeon crawl, but you find out what the whole lead up, the setup in book one was for, what it's all about. And so I start answering some of the deeper questions. And that's the plan, is to set questions and then answer them in the preceding novels. So it's been a blast to write there. I love the character. He's a lot of fun. It's kind of like, if anybody's read Jarrig by Stephen Bruce, Vlad Taltosh. He's kind of a cross between Vlad Taltosh and Blondie from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
All right, I'm gonna do some subliminal message here by keeping flashing these book covers up. And so, well, Aaron's not here to talk about his book. Does anybody want to describe that one?
Pirates.
Pirates. All right. Now, Rob, The Door into Winter.
Yes.
What's your elevator pitch on that one?
A goddess of winter a giant invades the goddess of winter's home and uses it as a way to get vengeance on those who've attacked him in the past.
Awesome. And then we have, we did the book launch for this one, Laurel of the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
That was our first book launch.
So Laurel picks up literally 2 weeks after Kyvan ends. And so it is just kind of continues the story. And we get into, what we're creating is this sort of Dungeons and Dragons style fantasy. And that is to say, at least in my mind, that we've got this party of characters coming together that could reasonably fit into sort of the classic, warrior, druid, rogue, magic user, cleric. I mean, these kinds of classes. And so in my series, I'm going through, obviously Kyvan is the warrior, Laurel is the rogue, Ren is the ranger, Ren the traveler is going to be next, and Slater is our wizard, and so that sort of thing. So this focuses on the rogue character, the rogue elf character of the story and her adventure, which is so much fun. We get a lot more information about the Noctums and what they are and what's inside them than we ever do before. We go deep into the Noctum in Laurel of the Dark, as the title implies.
Awesome. And for those of you who want to learn more about the book before you read it, we did do the live book launch, so go watch that video. The next book launch we did, of course, was for our buddy Mark for The Forgotten King. So, Mark, go ahead and describe that one for us.
Well, I mean, I kind of gave you the brief synopsis. The king who basically 1,000 years ago killed a vile, evil demon. The resulting explosion was seen around the world, and it imbued Aura, our main character, with everlasting life. Not saying he can't be killed, he just won't die of old age. And so in our free giveaway of short stories, a couple of the readers, capital R, a secret organization within the Eldros world. These are the guys who watch everything, preserve the knowledge, have chapters everywhere, and kind of subtly manipulate what might be happening. And so they kind of give him the idea that, hey, the world's out there. You've been shut away for a really long time. Maybe you should be out in it. So he fakes his own death and basically goes out and joins a D&D party. And so while he's out partying, killing goblins, burrow goblins in this instance, since now there's a whole bunch of different kinds of goblins, he basically he finds out that the High King, his great 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 grandson is assassinated. And
That's a great pitch, Mark.
Great. It was great.
great. Yeah. But anyway, so and it's he starts to find out things that his progeny wasn't an up and up guy. He basically liked to go drinking and whoring. So he wasn't really a good leader, and the people didn't like him, and all that kind of stuff. And so he's trying to figure out, who killed this guy and why. And then, by the way, what happened to the guard that was supposed to keep this guy alive? Yeah. So then that kind of starts the adventure.
An inciting incident.
Yeah, inciting incident.
Yeah, and Mark has a great story for his inspiration for his epilogue in that book, and he pulled that one on his book launch, so go check out that video. And the latest release in Eldros Legacy, of course, is Marie's book. If this will come up.
Embers and Ash.
Oh, great intro! Thank you.
No, that's good. Who was that?
That was me.
So, Embers and Ashes, it's got a lot of court intrigue, and it starts off with like this reigning evil that's reigning over the whole entire continent through the empirical seat. And so then our hero is actually the queen, who doesn't want to be queen, but she ends up being queen, and she becomes very determined to free the empire from this deadly reigning evil. And so after certain things happen in the book, then we see that like a lot of the different realms on Pyronon come forth with their claims to be the new rulers. And so Pyronon is heading for a pretty major war, like a civil war, because we've had a complete unmaking of the way things have been going on Pyronon for like 1800 years. So as things are unmade, then we have a lot of different people and different kings from different realms vying for power and wanting to be the king of Pyronon. There's like a significant amount of swapping of gender roles. Like instead of a king, there's a queen who's been ruling. It's been a family of kings who've handed down the reign in like succession. So I don't know. It's it gets pretty dark at different points, but I don't know. I kind of like it that way.
It's cool, creepy.
It gets a little bit creepy. My giants, I love my giants. I have a borrowed giant living in a dungeon. He's kind of asleep and kind of been asleep for a couple millennia, and he's been through some stuff that he doesn't quite know about. So as soon as he wakes up, he's going to be good and ticked. And then I have another one who created these cool clock towers across all of Pyronon, and I have another one who doesn't know what exactly he wants anymore. He thought he did, but he's kind of this conflicted, torn character. So I'm having fun with my giants as well.
That's awesome. But there were some anthologies as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do people have to well, let me pull these up since we're talking about it. These are the anthologies. Should people read these first, or is there any particular order? Do they have to read them?
They don't have to, but I think they should, especially the blue one that says "Here There Be Giants" on the front. There are 5 unique pilot stories that are from each of us 5 founders, and one is set on each of the continents, and it gives you a really good feel for the atmosphere and things like that you're going to find in the different books. So
and it's free.
And it is free.
Read them. You want to read them because
the first one's always free.
Yeah.
And you absolutely want to read Talons and Talismans too, if only for Sam Witt's story. You're going to get you're going to see more from that, but that's a pilot story as well. And all of these stories will ultimately interconnect. These stories are there to provide little tidbits and crumbs. None of them are required per se, but the more you read, the more it'll all piece together, and it'll all feel much stronger, much more powerful. The more of these you read and get all the connections.
So obviously this seems very well thought out, and you talk about everything coming together. Do you already kind of know how everything's going to culminate? Are y'all still working on that, or?
I'm really glad that it seems really well thought out. I'm glad that we're giving you that.
The illusion is real. So when we got together, we mapped out several phases, and we're still in phase 1, where we're kicking it off. We're introducing our characters, the plot lines, and we're getting to a point where the gates are going to open. And then we're going to write our Avenger arc. And so that's our phase 2, is where the 5 of us will get together and we're going to write a set of novels where we interweave characters and plot. And then we'll move into phase 3, which is going to be another series where a certain set of stuff's going to happen. And then we'll culminate this 8-year journey with yet our final Avengers Endgame, where we will throw, or as Rob likes to put it, the throw the ring into Mount Doom moment. And so, Quincy and Todd over here are chuckling because they've been fighting about who gets to do what and why, and
not
who
fighting
might live and who might die.
No, there was this marvelous synergy.
Yeah, no,
right? We started talking and it ran off, man. It was like when a reactor chains and just goes. That's what happened. It was fantastic. We're really excited about getting there.
Yeah, I wanted my characters to do this one thing, and he wanted his characters to do this one thing. And it was like, wow, that meshes really well, and it just all kind of came together. So
it's going to be a spectacular ending.
It's going to be great.
So that's not to say we have a detail outline for what we're doing over 8 years. We have a notion for where this ship is headed.
Yeah, well, I think with all of the different elements coming into play, not just the founders, but the cohorts as well. Taking things from what they're doing to kind of blend together this thing it's like we've got, 30% of it imagined with big, huge holes or connectors so that we can plug in whatever inspires us along the way. And it's really creating this wonderful organic fabric as we're going along. I'm so excited I don't even know what's exactly going to happen, but I'm so excited to get there because I know some of the things, and those things are so cool already, and then the things that we'll plug in will just be all of the best, like all the things that we think are the best for the ending as we go along. Go ahead.
So, it'll be a somewhat vague example. Jamie and I have been working together on what he's doing with his stories and stuff. But then, because we actually every 2 weeks we have all of the cohorts and at least hopefully all of them, but sometimes some of the founders to get together and just talk. We talk magic, we talk story, we talk ideas. And this was a month and a half ago, it was Courtney who had said she wants to have a goblin rebellion.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, okay, that's freaking awesome. She said, and she said, hey, Quincy, is there a way to actually get them into your continent? I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I know exactly where, and we need to talk. So these sorts of things, these little sparks that are going to there'll be pivotal moments where you do end up getting the overlap between the continents. It was really cool. Nobody planned that. That was purely by accident. It's going to be
You'll
great.
be able to read about those goblins in Dark and Secret Paths, which is coming up in one of our releases in 2 months, 1 month, next month. Yeah, next month. So that's like the origin of those particular goblins. And I was just really happy to hear that Quincy was like, oh yeah, send them over here, because I was like, wow.
I have some shit they need to wreck.
Right. a level boatload of goblins pouring out of somewhere. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So, what would you say your favorite thing about writing in this world has been? You've already kind of mentioned.
For me, it's the collaboration, the fact that we get together. I mean, yes, with the cohorts, and we also get together as just us, and just the ideas. I mean, like, I can throw out an idea, and all of a sudden we start riffing on it, or like Todd and Quincy will giggle, and then they'll be like, "Oh, let's do this," and then now we're trying to incorporate that into the main storyline. That kind of a thing. I just love how it's just lightning bolts of inspiration come from everywhere.
I love the fact that all of these founders are so interested in story. Like, I call up Mark and say, hey, I want a dragon. And, we each kind of rule our own provinces. And so there's always good to ask permission, if Mark's like, hey, I'd like to have an octave in my continent. And the answer is always yes. It's always yes. It's like, yeah, no, that'd be cool. You should have a dragon, or, you should have an octave, or yeah, come. Like, the third book in the Noxanon series is in Daemonon. Like 96% of it is in Quincy's continent. He was so excited to host my characters, destroying the north part of his land. It was just, it's just so much fun. It's all this just constructive, creative, collaborative stuff. It's just such a blast.
And not only that, but then you're going to see the aftermath of what Todd's working on in that book is going to get referenced both in Jamie's books as well as in mine. So we're really paying close attention to when things happen, where they happen, and how they influence what we call the meta story, or how they brush up against it. Right? There is this really concerted effort to maintain an awareness across all 5 continents, within the continents and the cohorts, to make sure that when a reader is reading, they say, "Oh my God, I know what that is." We want to create as many of those moments as we can, because that's just freaking fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for me, it's the opportunity. Like, it's been a real blessing just to be able to work with these 4 gents anyway. But creating in a world where that readers are going to get hooked, and it's going to be one of those life-changing series that they go back to, for escape or for adventure or whatever. Like, we all had those universes, that we read in when we were growing up, and being able to have the opportunity to create in one that might touch somebody like that, I think that's the best part for me.
And Rob?
Well, I don't really have much to add to that. They pretty much covered all the things that I enjoy about this. I'm enjoying seeing what people are doing. Todd from Kaiven the Unkillable did a really neat innovation on one of the types of magic that I never even dreamed of. And that was really neat to see. And I've been sort of exploring how those sorts of things can be expanded along those lines. So yeah, just echoing basically what everybody else is saying. The collaboration part is nice. It's really neat to see. I created the magic system a long time ago, and the way they're interpreting it is fascinating to me, and quite often brilliant.
Yeah, and I have to say, hearing you all talk, this is what I love about the podcast, is because people get to know you better than they did before. We already know you're great storytellers and things like that, but the excitement that y'all are showing about writing this and doing this world, and the obvious fun that it's very endearing, and it makes me want to read these books even more. And so I love it. It's I can tell y'all are having fun, and you're enjoying yourselves. It seems like a big D&D party almost. It's just
that's not too far from the truth.
Yeah, but no, that's what I love about. And that's why I enjoy podcasts in general, because you get to know the artists better and everything. And I appreciate y'all coming on and having a good time. Just being yourself. Plus, you're great storytellers, and I don't have to talk that much, so that's great.
Well, we really appreciate you having us on and getting us a chance to talk.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, man.
Well, before we hang up, let's talk about what what's up next? What can people look forward to in the coming months for
Well,
Eldros Legacy?
in
Check out
6
the paintball.
days, we have Kendra Merritt's The Pain Bearer, and it really is brilliant. A month from that, in early October, we have Jamie Ibsen's A Murder of Wolves, which
It's really
is
good.
really good. And then after that, we have Courtney Farrell's Dark and Secret Paths, and then
And she's lighting the world on fire.
yes, a lot of
So
fire,
many bats.
Goblins.
and then we get back to Todd to keep going with Noxanon and his setup that he's got going on that's really amazing. And Quincy comes after that. And then honestly, we have so many options coming for February that we haven't really decided which one makes the best sense.
Mhm.
So we've got so many things coming in from some really innovative and creative writers, and it's exciting to read some of these drafts. I know Haley, who's been on the chat here, has got one coming, and
Yeah.
Becca's got one coming, and Aaron Rosenberg has another one coming, and actually he and I on Friday are going to lay out exactly what he's doing with that, and Sam Witt has this hunter idea that really is a lot of fun, and he's got a couple of short stories that he's done in Talons and Talismans too, and also in Keen Edge of Valor, and that's really a fun character, and I can't wait to see the novel length version of what he does, and so on down the line. It's really exciting times coming ahead for all of us, because there's too many stories and they're all coming out.
Yeah, I mean, we started this 2 years ago, and like what we had dreamed would happen is now happening.
Yeah, it's really starting to get rolling.
Starting to get good.
It's really fun, so much fun.
So
A lot of hard work.
Yeah, sounds like it. So if people want to keep up with what y'all are doing and all the news, what's the best place to do that?
Join our fan group on Facebook.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fun there. Yeah. And then also following each of us on Twitter. We tend to retweet everybody's book news.
Well,
So
except me. I don't tweet. I'm an old fart.
I tag you, though.
I
do all
don't
the time.
tweet. I would also say actually hit the sign up for the newsletter on the Eldros Legacy site, because that's probably the most regular. We know that goes out normally when it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And that's where you get to see what's coming up next, what's going on.
Especially with the book releases.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I went when I was doing research, I went on the Eldros website. There's a lot of good stuff there.
And it's a little out of date.
A little bit.
We're working
We have
on
the
that.
archives too. We're going to have it's going to be set up where you can go and look up any continent or any character or anything like that. It's kind of a work in progress right now, but that is one of the coolest ideas that I think that we're putting together. Is you'll be able to go and get the storylines and the different characters and creatures and races and stuff like that over at our archives.
I plan on spending the winter actually updating a lot of the Daemonon stuff in there. There's a pretty good stack of stuff that I've got to put in, but it's going to be a great resource.
Awesome. And one last time, I'm gonna compliment y'all's fans. The chat has been great. Lots of puns.
Right on.
They're very enthusiastic. I love it. And like I said, every time one of y'all are on the show, it's very enthusiastic. The crowd's great. It's a good talk, especially when Maurice is in here. She brings a lot of energy.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, we got a few super fans that we need to I don't know, buy beers for or something.
And let's see. Oh, where I know it's kind of the end of the con season, but is there any appearances or anything that you guys want to talk about?
Yeah.
I'll be at FenCon. I'll be in Dallas for FenCon this time next week. It's so it's going to be like 9 days from now.
Yep. And then I believe it starts the 16th of September. FanX. I'll be at FanX.
Cool.
Selling
Salt
books.
Lake?
Yep, in Salt Lake City. Yep.
And then after that, I have Mile High Con in Denver at the Tech Center. That's going to be a fun show. Looking forward to that because I just got all my copies of my book.
And then
So
some of us
Oh, yeah.
will be at 20 books to 50K in November.
I will be at 20 books and I will
I
have a
will
book
make it.
table.
I'm
Oh.
pretty much done for the con season. I was supposed to do Dragon Con, but it didn't quite work out.
Yeah. We
If
missed
you're
you.
in the Kansas City area, I'll be at a gaming convention first week of December, Midwest Game Fest.
Oh, there you go.
So come on out, play games, and chat, and we'll have looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Todd and I will be at Albuquerque Comic Con in
January.
January.
Cool.
I was wrong about Phoenix, by the way. It's the 20th, not the 16th of September. Sorry.
And Dan
and
apparently
who's-
will be at and looks like Dan will be at Factory Con.
I'll be at
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Chris
I'll
may
be
be
there
at
too.
Factory
So,
Con.
yeah, I mean,
I'll be
that's-
at Factory Con.
It's
I
a
don't
smaller
get to go to
venue,
Factory
so to
Con this
speak,
year.
but I'll be there. I'll be drinking.
I
yes,
probably won't.
Just
because-
saying.
But I think all the rest of us are going to be there.
I don't get to go to Factory Con this year. I have
We
to.
will miss you
work
both.
my own icon. I will miss you guys too.
I will drink for you. I will
Thank
raise
you.
a margarita in your
I
honor.
was
We'll
super
drink your share. We'll drink your
Mark-
share.
I'm sure you will.
Any questions that
I expect
anybody
nothing
has?
less and nothing more.
Any questions that anybody has about Shigurin or Pyronon, just come to me.
Damon
I'll
on.
give you all the answers. No, I mean, you can talk to Damonon. I'll just fabricate all the answers for Pyronon.
Just remember, dragons are cool.
You can
Damon's
text
before.
me. You can text me while you're fielding those questions.
Oh, I could do that, or I could just make stuff up that helps me out.
Uh-huh. You rat bastard.
You are.
So, speaking of, if you want to keep up with what these great authors are doing, make sure you join their newsletter. You get free stuff. You get all the latest information. You probably get it even before it's on social media, and it's a great way to keep up with your favorite authors. And so, if there's somebody you like, join their newsletter. It's a good time. But before we leave, I'm gonna do some more plugs. Want to promote some of our affiliates YouTube channels. We've got the Dudes in Hyperspace, which is a great show. Rob is a part of that. Rob, you got any info on Dudes? What's coming up next?
The next podcast is an NFL season preview, and it's going to drop, I believe, tomorrow. We had a guy
Awesome.
named David Hayes on there last. We recorded it last night, and
Mhm.
David does that for one of the radio stations down in Panama City area, and really knowledgeable. Even though he's a young guy, from my perspective, he's learned a ton. Unfortunately for him, he's a Titans fan, and so I feel bad for him.
They're scrappy.
Scrappy. That's not a bad way to phrase it. But yeah, we do a lot of great stuff on Dudes in Hyperspace. We talk about sports. We talk about food. We're all writers because it's me and Kevin Steverson and Ian J. Malone. And so we're often talking about writing philosophy. In fact, if you have any questions, obviously tomorrow we have an episode coming out, but in 2 weeks or so, we are going to do our first mail episode. So send us your mail questions, whatever you want, whatever questions
Like
you want to ask.
chain mail,
Yeah, a mail.
plate mail.
Yes, all of them. Bring it all in.
What about female questions? Can we ask female questions?
I
You
was
can ask
gonna
female
say,
questions.
that's
I knew
kinda
one of you was going to do that.
lopsided.
I knew one of you was going to do that. So yeah, send us questions of whether it's writing or sports or any food, whatever. Send us whatever questions. We'll answer it.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
I'm finally getting made fun of on this thing, as I've been doing this for a while, and everybody gets made fun of but me. But thanks, Nick. Appreciate you.
Don't worry, we've always made fun of you, Jeremy. Just haven't done it, in front of you.
Oh, well,
Not me.
Oh, man.
Another affiliated channel that we have is Casey Ezell. She does her writer life vlog on her channel. Go check her out. Now, Quincy, don't you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah. So there's
Look at that look on his face. He's like, "Oh man, I
Oh,
forgot about that."
that goes back a ways. When I was writing the the Blood War Chronicles, and I think also Colt the Outlander when I was writing for the Aradio Brothers and Wordfire. So if you happen to go out there, and I wouldn't like rush to do so, but there's actually some playlists that I put together for the Blood War Chronicles and Colt the Outlander. So that's about it. I mean I'm going back a ways. 5-6 years. I haven't been there yet, but there's some interesting stuff. There's some great music. If nothing else, there's some cool mixes in there.
Yeah, I think Jamie Ibsen also has a 4HU playlist out there somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to find that one. All right. Well, before we go, we got some stuff coming up next week. But before that, this morning we had the final Hit World Valkyrie author interview posted this morning. Go check it out. It is the final interview before the live book launch next week on Friday the 16th, where we will have a panel of authors from the book. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them, hosted by Marisa Wolf. I'll be pushing buttons in the background. And this Friday, we have another book launch by Mike Wyatt Jr., The Futility of Intent. This is going to be his fourth book in the, I'm going to say this wrong. Hold on. In the Anesian Convergence series. So come in for that. It's a great series. In addition to that, we also have started posting the Future Books podcast. We just had one come out this past week, starring the lovely Marisa Wolf and, of course, Chris Kennedy, talking about all the books that are coming out in the near future for Chris Kennedy Publishing. That's produced by Shark Flight Media, our buddy Ian Malone. And they graciously post it on the CKP YouTube channel, so I appreciate that. And I think that's all we have coming up in the near future. Of course, Future Books is hosted by Randall Willis, and it's a great. He's a super fan, and you can tell it's very entertaining. And so I really, and you can catch that anywhere you can catch podcasts, of course, on our YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can catch podcasts. So. With that, I want to thank you all for being on the podcast. This was a great show. It's a lot of fun, and I really appreciate y'all. And of course, as always, you're always welcome to come on here anytime you got something you want to talk about. Maybe a book launch or what have you. But anytime you want to come on, you just holler at me, and we'll be happy to have you on. And I truly appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you for having
This
us.
is absolutely a pleasure. Always.
Thanks, Jeremy.
You are awesome.
It's good fun.
I appreciate it. And again, to the fans now and in the future, thank you very much. Go support these authors. Join their mail list. If they have a Patreon, check that out. And with that, I bid you adieu until next time.